Ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Camina. He is the filmmaker. We are going to do a Q&A once I get the mics out to the audience. So, but I'll let you start by taking the mic, introduce yourself, and tell us how this all got started.
Hi guys, how are you? I want to thank you all for coming out today. It's a wonderful audience. I really appreciate Phoenix and the Desperado Gay and Lesbian Film Festival for bringing this film out today. I want to thank a couple people in the audience. One of I think the sponsors tonight was Bill Fryer Entertainment. Where's Bill? Bill. Bill provided a couple of songs from the movie. I Want That Man by Jen Canetta and Pride is the Word by David James Boyd. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to just open up the floor for questions. Oh, is Tracy Montgomery here? I want a very, very special guest in the audience. One of the Phoenix Assistant Chief of Police, Tracy Montgomery, is in the house tonight. Thank you so very much for coming tonight. Thank you very much for coming too. Is Jennifer here? Jennifer Fitcher? Twitchell, sorry, from the Anti-Defamation League is here today. So thank you so much for coming today. It really means a lot for you guys here. So, let's chat. Who has any questions? Well, on June 28th, 2009, it was a Sunday morning, and I had some friends who were at the Rainbow Lounge that night before celebrating, Todd Camp, who was in there with the greenish background, he was celebrating his birthday. And on Facebook, when I woke up, I read these accounts of what he had experienced that night, and he's a really well-respected member of the community, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And as the morning went on, more and more people who were there that night posted their very moving, very graphic stories, and I thought to myself, I just wrapped a movie, debuted a movie just a month prior, so I was in between projects. So I said, you know, I don't know what is going on, but I need to capture it on video. So I grabbed my camera and went down to the rally in Dallas, and then went to the rally in Fort Worth. I thought it would make a great short film. Well, as you can tell, it's far from a short film. It took about 3 years to produce, to follow the story, because I wanted to be a very responsible telling of the story. I wanted it, both sides of the story, and be able to tell the good that came out of it. So we needed to wait a little while. I was hoping good was going to come out of it. But we had to be able to wait a little while. So the genesis was reading about it on Facebook and just getting swept into it. I thought it was a responsibility of mine to tell this story, pages out of our history book. Yes, question.
It's so odd, the whole kind of what is it, the gay attack defense. You know, the officers, one of them said, I did what I did to him because he blew me a kiss. To me, that's almost a self-indictment of excessive force. But somehow that argument is never really made in public. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? I mean, to take someone down because they blew me a kiss, that's excessive force, period, in a conversation. Right, or eat Twinkies, right.
I mean, there's a technical definition of excessive force that we, as a community, it differs a little bit from the police department, from what I understand. You know, as they said in the movie, my definition of excessive force is different than what the police department's, definition of excessive force is. A club wasn't used, the pepper spray wasn't used. So there was this conflict of what is excessive force, and whether or not a kiss was blown, don't know. Whether or not that was the catalyst for it. This is going to be part of the controversy, and till the end of time. But it was insulting. It continues to be insulting. My personal opinion is I think it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, in which that was a real good reason, proof on why diversity training was so imperative to institute that there, because it's unacceptable. Yes.
I'm going to presume that you've probably showed this in Fort Worth to the community there. Was there a reaction? Did community leaders come out to see the film? And I just want to kind of get what was their reaction to your work here to this film?
Sure. We debuted this film in March of this past year, March 15th, in downtown Fort Worth. It was a really huge event in the local area. The Chief Halstead came, also the I'm just drawing blank. The city manager came. We also had one of the city councilmen there. People from the diversity task force showed up. It was huge. We sold out a nearly 400-seat theater there. And to be honest, I was very nervous because it's a huge responsibility to take it on, and we're dealing with so many emotions, a huge roller coaster, and it still to this day traumatizes people. But it was well received, even by Chief Halstead. I can say that Chief Halstead and I are friends. I do respect the man a lot. He has seen this movie 2.5 times. He sat through it, and the first half of the movie is not kind to him. But that reflects the true attitudes that were expressed in those weeks, in those months. I mean, he was a 20-year veteran here in Phoenix and transferred from Phoenix to Fort Worth. So he was only on the job for a couple of months when he started. So he, for better for worse, he was really green. But he has seen this movie a number of times. He's become a cheerleader for this film. He and I presented this film to the North Texas U.S. Attorney's Office for their first GLBT Pride Month diversity program last June. Right after we screened this movie in March, he sat on the White House Safe Schools and Communities panel to help promote diversity and understanding for LGBT communities. So I don't think any of us thought that this man who we knew on June 28, 2009 would be where he is today, but he's a huge advocate for LGBT equality. Yes?
I just want to say that as you're speaking about the police chief, I realized that you all had to move forward and move on. Somebody in the film said, we want to move forward, we just want to address this and move forward. But I'm still troubled by the fact that the police department, I sit next to Miss EOD here, I mean, they really didn't. The other organization, the Tobacco, TABSC, they terminated people, admitted the errors in judgment. I think they said there were 19 infractions. They went hard, they went strong, they did it quickly. So it's just troubling to me that the city of Fort Worth, I mean, at the end, the chief came, and you said you have a good relationship with him, and at the end of the movie, they talk about how there's been all this healing and everybody's moved forward. But they never really did the part when he said taking money from these people. We know better than that. Hell yeah, take 30 days of pay from them and see if that makes a difference. Yeah,
I think you're echoing, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're echoing just the level of discipline that was given to them.
Well, the fact that I'm a City of Phoenix employee as well, and a lot of times we just want to make it go away. We want to say what we have to say. We want to give some kind of mediocre, canned kind of response to get on and move forward. And I guess at some point you do have to move on, or else we'd still be there. We'd still be standing out in front of the Rainbow Lounge, But just as a watching the film, just my own personal, it's just frustrating to me that the one organization stood up and said, we blew it, we made mistakes, we're getting rid of these guys, we want no parts of it. And the other organization, even though they came to Jesus at the end, they got it together at the end, but they never really said, we blew it. At least not in the film. I didn't see that part.
Right. The apologies are very measured, as you saw. Chief Halstead crafted his message very specifically. And that's this movie could have been a trilogy. There was so much that went on, but there was a lot of disappointment with the way the discipline was administered, and people thought that it should have been more. But what it came down to is the actual policies that were in place and violated, and so he had to use whatever past levels of discipline had been used, because he had to come back and defend that discipline. And at some point, you do have to figure out, how do we move on? And their answer was the diversity training, and it's still going on today. So I'm glad that we're able to do that still. Yes, down here.
You have a extremely wide range of people who participated and spoke about this. Were there many people who said no, that they absolutely would not discuss this with you, and how?
It was my goal.
Disappointments, or?
It was my goal to interview as many different people as possible, different demographics, because I didn't want anyone to dismiss this as, it's just a bunch of, old white men, that are upset, or it's just a bunch of Twinkies that are upset. I really wanted to show a diverse group of people, and there were people that were very fearful to talk. In the beginning, we did not know what was happening. There was a fear of police retaliation, and I had to build, with the people I didn't know, I had to build a lot of trust with them, and just trust me. I won't put you in a predicament where you will be unsafe. The only person to turn me down for an interview was TABC agent Aller. It wasn't too surprising that he told me no, but I did approach him to tell him his side of the story, or for him to tell his side of the story, and he respectfully declined. Yes. Yes, back in the back.
What role do you think your movie played in creating the change that actually took place? Because it didn't happen just because the movie was over. The fact that you're filming it in process. What do you think do you think that made it? I mean, I know it's kind of a weird question for you to answer, because you have to take some credit, but it played a role. How do you see that impact?
I would like to think that it is playing a role. It would have been really easy for this story to fade away in the headlines, but we're keeping it on the forefront, keeping their feet to the fire. We're using it as a tool, because it's one thing to read out of a history book or read a newspaper, but to see it, to see the emotional impact, that says volumes. So we're using it in training. Like I said, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. State Department invited me to screen the film for a delegation from Europe back in October. We are using it in schools across the country. So I would like to think that we're helping to educate and helping to expose people to the issues, like Del Shore says in the film, to expose it, to educate. So I would like to think that it's making a difference and helping change.
Congratulations on a beautiful movie.
Thank you.
And I think it's ironic that earlier this week the president announced Stonewall.
Yes.
Many Americans had never heard the word Stonewall, and you have done a great justice to the people in Texas. And I think what you're saying about his story and her story, as gay and lesbian, transgendered, bisexual people, we often overlook that. And thank you for bringing it to the forefront.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes.
I would like to add that I think you did an incredible job of documenting the whole process, documenting everything. I mean, you laid it out. So even though my initial comment to you was that I was frustrated about the city of Fort Worth not just coming out and saying we blew it, we're going to fix it immediately, I think that your film is so well done that they don't even really have to say it, because you paint it all over the screen. You did an amazing job.
Thank you. It was really, I could have just told the negative story, like I said, and there were a lot of mistruths that were circulating at the time. And I really wanted to do my best to be well-rounded and tell a responsible story. So thank you. before I forget, please go to our website, rateoftherainbowlounge.com, and sign up for our newsletter, because I hope to have this film on DVD this summer, hopefully around the time of the 4-year anniversary. So please sign up for the newsletter there and join our Facebook page, Rate of the Rainbow Lounge. I also have a few CDs of Jen Canetta's I Want That Man. They're free. So if you want that. Yes, one other. The question was, how did I get Meredith Baxter? For how many of you know who Meredith Baxter is? Oh, well, pretty much everybody. Okay. Well, very early on, I realized, or I decided that I wanted a female's voice, a voice that was comforting yet confident, and she came to my mind very, very quickly. And so I was still writing the film, but I started getting together a packet for our agent and make the best presentation possible that I could. And as fate would have it, one of the producers met Meredith in Las Vegas for an HRC event, and he mentioned to her the project, and she was interested. So about that point, I had the script finished, and so I sent it off to her, and I had a meeting with her just a few weeks later. She happened to be in Dallas for a conference, had dinner with her, and the next day she says, "I'm in." So I think it was meant to be. She was incredibly wonderful and supportive, and you know, everything you would want Mrs. Keaton to be. Is that? I'll be available for questions out in the lobby afterwards if you want to ask anything else, if you're shy. Well, once again, I want to thank Alan East and the Desperado LGBT Film Festival for inviting the film here and bringing me out today. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for being such a good audience and welcoming audience. Thank you.